What if the most foundational food in human history, the very thing we call the staff of life, was never meant to cause inflammation or chronic illness, but was actually designed to heal us from within? For thousands of years, the inhabitants of the biblical world and the civilizations that came before them relied on a group of extraordinary seeds, seeds that modern science is only now beginning to understand. And yet today, most of these seeds have been systematically replaced by industrial hybrids, crops engineered not for human biology, but for yield, scale, and profit. While modern wheat is making millions of people sick, triggering inflammatory responses and compromising the integrity of the intestinal lining, there exists a forgotten chapter of our botanical history, a chapter filled with ancient grains that our bodies were evolved to recognize. These seeds were once so valuable they were used as currency, offered as sacred tithes in temples, and consumed by the builders of pyramids and the prophets of the wilderness. And now we are beginning to rediscover something powerful. These ancient plants contain unique biochemical compounds like beta-glucan and complex polyphenols, compounds that don't just feed the body, but actively repair the gut barrier, switch on cellular self-cleaning mechanisms, and modulate the immune system in ways modern processed foods simply cannot replicate. There was a time when food was not separate from medicine. The grain in the field was also the medicine in the cup. To understand why we have lost this connection, we must first look at what changed. For over 10,000 years, the grains of the Fertile Crescent existed in a state of genetic stability. They evolved slowly, in harmony with human biology. But in just the last 50 years, we have transformed these plants into high-yield commodities, and our biological systems never caught up. The first seed in our journey back to vitality is Einkorn, the most ancient form of wheat ever known to man. Unlike modern bread wheat, with its complex 42 chromosome structure, Einkorn possesses just 14, a simple diploid structure that has remained largely unchanged since it was first harvested in the wild. And that simplicity matters, because many people who struggle with modern gluten find they can tolerate Einkorn. Its gluten proteins are different, more fragile, easier for human enzymes to break down. Einkorn was the grain that sustained the very first agricultural communities, and researchers today are fascinated by it because it contains high concentrations of lutein and beta-carotene, antioxidants that protect our cells from oxidative damage and support the health of the mucous membranes that line our digestive tract. It was a plant of immense resilience, thriving in poor soils where other crops would fail. Einkorn wasn't just food. It was the beginning. As civilizations expanded, so did the diversity of their crops. This brings us to the second pillar, Emmer wheat. Known as the wheat of the pharaohs, Emmer was the primary grain used in ancient Egypt during the time the Israelites dwelt there. It appears throughout the archaeological record as the foundation of the ancient diet. Emmer is a tetraploid wheat with 28 chromosomes, and it was celebrated for its high fiber content and dense mineral profile. In the harsh, arid environments of the ancient Near East, Emmer provided iron, magnesium, and zinc, nutrients essential for endurance and physical labor. But today, we are rediscovering something deeper. Its fiber is particularly effective at feeding beneficial bacteria in the lower intestine, helping produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce systemic inflammation throughout the body. Emmer wasn't just sustaining life, it was quietly protecting it. Then comes Spelt, a grain mentioned directly as part of a survival formula, a grain preserved through time. Unlike modern wheat, Spelt retains its thick protective hull, a natural shield protecting the nutrient-dense kernel from pests and environmental damage. This hull is so strong it requires specialized milling,
But that difficulty may have preserved its nutritional integrity for centuries. Spelt is higher in protein and rich in B vitamins, and its gluten is highly water-soluble, making it significantly more bioavailable. Centuries ago, Hildegard von Bingen described spelt as the best of all grains, a grain that produces a healthy body and a happy mind. And now, modern research is beginning to validate those claims because spelt contains compounds that strengthen immune response and support the repair of the intestinal wall itself. Beyond these wheats, ancient diets relied on resilience. Millet, a grain that survived where nothing else could. Cultivated for over 7,000 years, it became a staple across Africa and the Middle East. Naturally gluten-free and alkaline-forming, millet helped soothe inflamed digestive systems. It is exceptionally rich in magnesium, a mineral required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, from nerve function to blood pressure regulation. And because of its unique structure, millet slows the absorption of sugar, preventing metabolic spikes that damage our tissues over time. In even harsher environments, sorghum stood strong, one of the most drought-tolerant grains on Earth. Sorghum is packed with polyphenols and tannins, powerful antioxidants concentrated in the outer layers of the seed. Some varieties contain more antioxidants than blueberries or pomegranates. And these compounds don't just protect, they regulate. They slow the digestion of starch, creating a steady release of energy and protecting the gut from oxidative stress. Then comes teff, one of the smallest grains ever cultivated, yet one of the most powerful. Because of its size, it cannot be refined. Every time you eat teff, you consume the entire grain, bran, germ, endosperm, nothing removed. It is rich in iron, calcium, and resistant starch, a special carbohydrate that bypasses digestion and feeds the gut microbiome directly, fueling the beneficial bacteria linked to longevity and endurance. Ancient nutrition did not stop at grains. It extended to pseudo-cereals like amaranth. Often called the sacred seed, amaranth was valued as both food and symbol. It is one of the few plant foods that provides a complete protein, containing all 9 essential amino acids, and it is exceptionally rich in lysine, critical for tissue repair and immune function. It also contains squalene, a compound studied for its anti-aging and protective properties. Then comes buckwheat, not a wheat at all, but a seed rich in rutin, a compound that strengthens blood vessels, improves circulation, and supports overall vitality. At the same time, its fiber nourishes the gut microbiome, protecting both structure and function. Then comes rye, dense, fermented, resilient. Rye contains lignans converted by gut bacteria into compounds that support heart health and hormonal balance. And when fermented, it becomes a living food, enhancing digestion and strengthening immunity. Then comes barley, the grain of ordinary people, simple, overlooked, yet profoundly powerful. Barley contains the highest concentration of beta-glucan of any grain on Earth, a fiber proven to lower cholesterol, stabilize blood sugar, and enhance immune response. Inside the gut, it forms a protective gel, slowing glucose absorption and feeding beneficial bacteria. The grain of the poor was actually the medicine of the wise. Then comes Khorasan wheat, Kamut, a grain rich in minerals, selenium, zinc, magnesium, with proven anti-inflammatory effects in modern studies. Then Fonio, a grain that matures in weeks, surviving the harshest climates. rich in rare amino acids, supporting detoxification and cellular repair. And finally, flax and sesame. Flax, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, reducing inflammation and supporting brain health. Sesame, rich in protein, calcium, and compounds that protect the liver and cardiovascular system. Together, they formed more than a diet. They formed a system of survival. When we step back, a pattern becomes clear. These were not just foods, they were a biological strategy designed by nature, refined by time. But modern agriculture broke that system, and yet the blueprint still exists. By returning to these ancient seeds, we are not just changing what we eat, we are restoring a connection our bodies still remember. Because the staff of life was never meant to harm us, it was always meant to heal us. And that knowledge has been waiting quietly in the fields for thousands of years.